Here. Okay.
Okay, I think we're on.
We're on.
Yeah, we're on. It says live and all that stuff.
All right.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into Talking Tuscaloosa. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein. As always, Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm quite fine. We're 7-0, man.
Yeah, you act like you're surprised by that. Actually, how many times have we started 7-0? I know last year we did, obviously, and then but the 2 years previous to that we did not. And then then backing up, that would be in 12. I guess we did in 12 because we lost to A&M around game 8 or 9.
That was after LSU.
Yeah.
It was like after LSU.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were like I think we were only the 2 times we've lost to Ole Miss. Other than 2010. 2010 obviously. 2010 we lost South Carolina in September or early October. But yeah, the 2 times we lost to Ole Miss. So yeah, we've been 7-0 a lot. I say it though as a way of reminding everyone that every now and then we do have to pinch ourselves, and I mean the run that we're on is just unfathomable. What's also unfathomable is a lot of our fans bitch and moan along the entire way and are just so frustrated with how we play, despite the fact we're the best program in college football. We're probably the best program in the history of college football, and people still are unhappy, which says a lot more about them than it does our football program. But yeah, 7-0 again. 7-0 and a 35-point favorite over
one of our arch rivals.
Power. A traditional power.
8 games to go, technically, I guess. Well, not technically. I mean, theoretically. It's funny. I wrote an article for the local paper here, and I talked about how Alabama, Oklahoma just lost as a 30-point favorite to Iowa State. The same Oklahoma team beat Ohio State, who was like a 10-point favorite or whatever they were at home against that Oklahoma team. Ohio State lost as a big favorite to Michigan State, but I think a couple of times in the last few years. Michigan lost on the road to Iowa last year. It just seems like there are a lot. Washington State lost as a double-digit favorite this past week. Clemson lost as a 21-point favorite this past weekend. Auburn lost as a big favorite this past. 4 of the top 10 lost, and really they it just doesn't happen to Alabama. Now, yes, people have fired back at me. Well, yeah, Clemson beat you in the national championship game. Do you forget that? That really wasn't an upset. I mean, when you make it to the national championship game, if one team beats the other one, that's not an upset. That's the 2 best teams in the country. And if you want to talk about Ole Miss beating Alabama, then yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, that's technically it's an upset, but both of those Ole Miss teams were very, very good. And it's not like losing to Iowa State. It's not like losing to Syracuse. It is a different animal. And we've won 71 in a row against unranked opponents. That's you talk about unfathomable. I mean, that is incredible. The record is 73, and I think we will easily eclipse that. Even if LSU is more difficult than we think, and they will still be ranked. I think we'll beat them anyway, but then we'll play Mississippi State, and I think we'll beat Mississippi State too. And then we play Mercer. So, I mean, we're probably going to set the record, and then we won't have a chance to play anybody unranked, assuming Auburn doesn't collapse, until the next year. And I think we will just extend this record. Now, having said that, crazy shit happens in college football. Alabama, I guess, if Oklahoma can lose to Iowa State, I guess Alabama can lose to Tennessee, but I don't think so. I don't think they can. I mean,
I don't even. It's crazy that we don't even consider it within the realm of possibility.
And are they still a rival? Are they still a rival?
Well, I don't personally define a rival by the 1-loss record in the recent series. Yeah, of course, they're a rival. They're one of our top 2 rivals. I would say that Tennessee may be our number 1 rival, but I don't define it by, they were still our rival when they were beating our ass every year. They beat us like 7 years in a row or something. I still considered them a rival, even though we weren't too competitive with them during that period of time. Also, getting back to what you're saying about fans earlier, if your opinion is Alabama should win the national championship, and if they don't, something has gone horribly wrong. I mean, what planet are we living on for that to be I mean, it's hard to win the national championship, even if the perception is we have the best team. It's hard.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to do that. Like
A
I
bunch
tweeted the
of
other
things
night,
have to go right.
who has the highest payroll in Major League Baseball? I don't actually know the answer. I think it's the Dodgers, but it might be the Yankees or Red Sox or Cubs. I don't know. But who has the highest payroll, and does that team win the World Series every year? I think if you looked at it, in fact, they don't. They don't usually. They don't even often. The Yankees haven't won the World Series in like 10 years or something. I'm just saying that just because the perception is that you have the best team, some people act like, well, then you should win. It's hard. It is hard to do. If it was just only about having the perceived best team, then how come we're winning more national championships than anyone ever has in the history of the sport? Why didn't Notre Dame win more of them in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s? Why didn't Miami win more of them during their run? Why didn't Bobby Bowden win more of them during his run? Because it's effing hard to do. It's just hard. And just because we don't win every game by 4 touchdowns does not mean that we're screwing it up. It's just hard to do. Now, that all said, we're a 35-point favorite over Tennessee. Frankly, I'll be surprised if we don't cover that number, because this particular matchup is tough for Tennessee because, frankly, and normally I say this out of humor and I exaggerate for humor effect, but Tennessee has a difficult time scoring against air. For real, not a joke. I mean,
No, like literally.
Like literally, if they were the only team on the field and all 11 of them lined up, they would probably have to run 5 or 6 plays before they could finally get it over the line. And that's if they don't fumble it out of the back of the end zone.
And I'm talking running plays. These are running plays.
Yes, they would. It would take several. It would take. Well, first of all, because for whatever reason they wouldn't hand it to John Kelly.
No, that's true.
They got one guy on the team as good as anybody that plays for Alabama, and that's the guy they don't give the ball to. But thankfully, that said, no, Tennessee is going to have an extremely difficult time getting to 14. I don't think they'll get to 14. I'm going to say they're going to get to 10, but just because I'm kind of the Alabama fan predictor I think Alabama's going to win something like 49-0. But if I say that out loud, I feel like I just screwed the whole thing up, because I'm like, it doesn't feel logical to say that. That's how I really feel. But I'm going to go 42-10. But I think it's going to be worse than that.
No, I think it's, well, I guess that would really be the same as Arkansas, the differential at least. I think it's going to be worse than Arkansas. I think Tennessee has mailed it in. They've got some more suspensions and some injuries, and I think Alabama's still working out some kinks. I mean, last week against Arkansas, I told somebody it felt like Alabama was in a live scrimmage, and they knew they were in a live scrimmage. Like, okay, we can't lose this game because we're really just playing against ourselves. That's why I thought Jalen threw that interception. Everybody kind of looked like they were going through the motions after we got up 17-0 specifically. And I think this is bad news for Tennessee, because it's going to give Saban more ammunition to say, guys, you can't let up ever. Just don't let up ever, and we've got to go beat the shit out of people. Tennessee is beat the shit out of people. And I think that they are I think there's a better chance Damian Harris scores on the first play from scrimmage again than there is Tennessee getting to 14 points. That sounds arrogant.
That's crazy.
But
that sounds crazy, but it's probably true.
I know
it's probably true. It doesn't make it any less true.
That's true.
When you play, Tennessee this is what they do. They can't score against bad teams, and now they're playing one of the elite defenses in the sport. That's bad for Tennessee. What's also bad for Tennessee, Lucas, I think they're dead last in the SEC defending the run. They are.
Now, they are first in defending the pass, and that's only because nobody ever has to pass because they're running.
Nobody ever has to do it. That's exactly right. I mean, and the stats were so skewed when they played Georgia Tech, which is like playing a service academy team.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't stop Alabama from running the ball, and they can't score, which means they won't possess the ball. This game, if Nick Saban really wanted to end Butch Jones, I think Alabama could intentionally make the score R-rated. It would be for the squeamish only. People that like, I can't watch Gordon Hayward get injured in that Celtics game because I'm too squeamish. Those people couldn't watch the Alabama-Tennessee game either. I mean, it would be that.
You're saying 69-0 then.
What did Fran lose to Oklahoma? Squeamish.
77-0.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but I don't think Nick has a problem with Butch Jones. But obviously, most of coaches, by the way, a lot of fans don't realize this. When coaches don't like each other, 9 times out of 10, it has to do with recruiting and things that are said in living rooms on the recruiting trail that gets back to the coach. That's when coaches get really angry and don't like the other one. I doubt Butch isn't a big negative recruiter. And the fact of the matter is, Alabama and Tennessee don't go head to head on many players anymore. We did some, Trey Smith for sure, but I don't think.
But they hired his sister. They had his sister. I mean, it's not really going head to head when you're like, okay, we've got some of your family members employed. I'm not saying there was anything nefarious. I'm just saying that gives you an upper hand that's very difficult to overcome. It's kind of like Alabama with Marlon Davidson. It just wasn't going to happen.
That's right. That's right. And there wasn't a knock on Alabama. I mean, once Tennessee hired the sister, who was a UT graduate, I think it's not like she was, the fry girl at McDonald's in Albuquerque. And then they're like, hey, would you like to be the chief executive chef and make 110,000 here at the, I mean, it wasn't that nefarious, but
don't use my words, Jimmy. Don't steal my big words. I said nefarious. That's where you came up with it.
And I never say nefarious. I stole that from you because I never say nefarious.
I know, and let me tell you where
I've said it in 2017.
Let me tell you where I learned it. And this, again, it speaks to my stupidity that I really did never think of the word before. But back when I was at Alabama, remember Jason Jack, the quarterback at Alabama, he didn't play a lot. He's from Oxford, yeah.
I do. He signed in the Jay Barker class.
And now he's like a super badass surgeon. I mean, he is just a superstar. And he was a cool guy back then. Well, anyway, one of his good friends was my roommate. And the roommate and I didn't get along great, but I got along with Jason great. I love Jason. He was a super guy. Jason used to come over every day about lunchtime, and we'd all watch Moonlighting. I cannot believe I'm telling the world this, but
I can't.
But it was on Moon.
I can't believe
it was Moonlighting was old enough to where it was on reruns at lunch. But Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis, and it was a good show. And
Bruce Willis had hair then.
Bruce Willis was investigating Sybil Shepherd's dad. Like Sybil Shepherd said, I want you to follow my dad because I think he's cheating on my mom. And so something came up where somebody said something about the word nefarious, and the next scene was Bruce Willis looking up the word nefarious, and he said, unspeakably wicked. And so I'll never forget that.
Obviously.
So Moonlighting taught me something.
That you're the one living human that has increased their vocabulary from that show. I'm sure.
And I can listen, Jimmy, I swear to God, I forget whether or not cousins of mine are married and or their names, yet I can remember a scene from Moonlighting in 1991. That's pretty bad.
I think I'm equally impressed and aghast.
Damn it! I gotta go look up aghast. I'm going to have to hope Moonlighting comes back.
Bruce Willis on Moonlighting right now is furiously flipping through his dictionary looking for aghast. I'll tell him myself, this is even worse, but it leads to a hilarious thing that you need to do. This is even worse, but I'm going through Twitter the other night, and I see this name of a girl, a Hollywood crush I used to have years ago, and I'm sure I wasn't alone on this, but I remember when I was having a huge crush on before she was on Baywatch. Close. Well, actually, that ends up being semi-accurate these days. But I had a huge crush before Baywatch on Nicole Eggert.
Oh yeah. I mean,
remember Nicole Eggert?
Hey, yeah. Do I remember her?
Yeah. Yeah, Nicole Eggert. So I'm like, Nicole Eggert. And I'm like, I remember I liked her before Baywatch. How? And then I had to think hard because I'm old. And I remembered Charles in Charge, a horrible sitcom was Scott Baio. That's where I first found her, and that's when I first got a crush on. I had a crush on her, and this would have been like in the early 80s, I'm guessing, 83, maybe 84. So I was 13, 14, 15 years old. She was roughly the same age, probably a little older. But so what I did was I Googled. I don't ever really remember watching Charles in Charge. Maybe I did, and I was, 13. But I Googled it, and I actually found an 8-minute clip on YouTube, and I watched it. True, Nicole Eggert was a very, very, very cute girl, and I can see what the 13-year-old LJS saw there. That show is horrid. It's so bad. It's, sometimes things are so bad it's funny. Like, it's so terrible you laugh at it. This is so bad you can't even laugh at it. You're staring at your smart device watching this going, how the hell did this ever pass for entertainment? How did this, other than Nicole Eggert being, like super hot, how it was just, nothing was remotely funny about any of the jokes. I couldn't believe it. I got almost mad because me and you were into the comedy. I bet you're just like me. When you watch something that's supposed to be funny, it's not funny at all. I get like ups. I'm like, they can't be funnier than this. This shit's supposed to be funny.
No, it makes me mad.
This is supposed to be funny. I get upset. I'm like, when we're watching romantic comedies, I get mostly mad at that because I'm like, well, I guess they put in the romantic part, but where's the comedy? Because there wasn't one funny thing in an hour and a half. But apart from that, so what were we talking about? Why Alabama football is like Charles in Charge?
I think that's right. Or we got a Nicole Eggert and Bruce Willis and Nefarious. And so anyway, you want to talk about something unspeakably wicked and nefarious? It would be what we're going to do to Tennessee this weekend.
It's going to be jail sex time.
Oh, it's going to be like shift change for the guards jail sex. So they know there's no chance they get caught.
It's going to be bad, but there's sometimes when you show up and you're going to win 50-0, that's when you really ass it around.
But okay, let me ask this: when is the next time? I mean, let's just assume Saban stays 4 more years, 5 more years, which I think that's not unreasonable. 5 years ago, if you had said Saban's going to stay 5 more years, you would have said you're crazy. Somebody would have told you you're crazy. But now I think it's very reasonable to say Saban will be here 4 or 5 more years. I think that's reasonable.
I would bet on it.
Assuming he does that, is there any chance Tennessee beats us in his tenure, assuming nothing happens like Kim Jong-un attacks Tuscaloosa?
There's a better chance of that happening, I think, than Tennessee beating us soon, because they're not going to win this weekend. There will be a coaching change. They're not going to have the personnel, and they'll be undergoing a transition next year when it's in Knoxville, so they're not going to win next year. When we come back to Tuscaloosa, maybe in year 2, if they make a great hire, Tennessee might be substantially better. But in that year, Tua will be a junior. Jerry Jeudy will be a junior. Leatherwood and Wills will be All-Americans. This freshman class will all be proven NFL-ready juniors. They're not going to win that. So I think their best chance would be the second game from now in Knoxville. That's 4 years from now? That's their best chance. And maybe Saban won't be around. And if he is, let's see about the recruiting. I mean, the recruiting is going to be the first sign of cracks in the ship hull, will be recruiting. And there are some signs of that now. I'm not going to over panic about it because I don't. But that will be the first sign. And I'll tell you another theory about what could crash us into the tree. We often talk about how it's NCAA problems or it's recruiting. You know what can happen? And sometimes if you sign too many bad kids, and by bad kids, I mean turds that infect a bunch and turn everybody into turd. What Saban fights all the time, Saban spends all his time fighting complacency and kids that are driven. You get in just 2 or 3 that end up in leadership positions. Some bad apples. Literally, I mean that's a cliche, but it's true. One bad apple can infect a bunch, and that. But right now, I can't see that happening. And right now, for the most part, our leaders are really good kids.
Well, it's
today.
Look, my dad said something the other day. I don't even know if this is a saying or he made this up, and I don't remember what the hell we were talking about. But he said a thimble full of dog shit can ruin a whole vat of ice cream, and he's absolutely right. So I think that's kind of the new age
stealing.
One bad apple spoils the bunch.
It's way better. It's way better than mine. Your dad 1, LJS 0. That's good. I'm stealing that. A
But I'll
thimble
say
full of
this:
shit
if you
will
were
ruin a vat of
worried,
ice cream.
yeah, if you were worried about, for instance, some kids getting complacent or some quote unquote bad apples. I'm not saying we don't have any. There may be some. I don't know who they are necessarily. But
I can name some.
But Mac Wilson tweeted out.
Tony Brown.
Okay, so, no, okay.
Tony
Mac
Brown.
Wilson got bitched out by Nick Saban on the sidelines, and somebody tweeted about it in a derogatory way towards Saban, saying, here's this jackass again jumping a player when he's up 41-9. I mean, why would you do that? Why would you embarrass a player? And Mac Wilson tweeted, "It was a fantastic teaching moment for me, and I deserved every second of it." I was thinking, holy cow, who does that? He's been Sabanized, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It is like when the Borg takes over somebody in Star Trek, and like all of a sudden they're thinking like the collective. It's wonderful.
Yep. Saban does. I mean, player, and this is reason number 181 as to why Alabama is so successful under Nick Saban. Players take on the personality of their coach. They really do. And Nick Saban's personality is what it is, and a lot of our players, not all of them, a lot of our players sort of become Nick, like Minka, like Mac, like Deshaun Hand, like Jonathan Allen, like that entire class that just left for the NFL, Eddie Jackson, Reuben Foster, and on this year's team, Rashaan Evans, who showed up. I think Rashaan would tell you he came to Alabama sort of immature. He's leaving Alabama Sabanized and ready to be a pro athlete. Nick has had a tremendous influence on turning these kids into men, and Mac Wilson, I was thinking that was a great example. But yeah, I do think you accidentally get too many turds, and you get the wrong guy, and the players start following that guy instead of the coaches. And I'm not saying that will happen under Nick. I'm just saying we always talk about, it's like when you turn on the History Channel, they have one of those shows, 10 Ways the World Will End. This is just a discussion of 10 ways the Saban dynasty will end. And I think that's one of the theories. That's one of the things that could happen, but we rarely mention it. I think more likely what brings about the end is Nick's retirement. Number two, NCAA problems. Number three would be a complete fall off in recruiting, which happened, by the way, under Bear Bryant. People are, most of our fans aren't old enough to remember that. And hell, I'm barely old enough to remember back when Coach Bryant's era was ending. I was actually watching Charles in Charge on the couch. That's how long ago that was. And Nick, Bear Bryant's recruiting really fell off his last 2 or 3 classes. And when Ray Perkins had the first losing season at Alabama in 50 years in 1984, when Alabama went 4-7 or 5-6 or something like that, it was because we just didn't have enough good players. Coach Bryant hadn't signed many good ones at the end. So that's probably the way this Saban era will end as well.
Yeah, these things do have a tendency to end in catastrophe and very quickly, rather than a slow decline. Right. But anyway, going back to Tennessee, they've got Jarrett Guantanamo Bay back there at quarterback, and best of luck to you, bro. I don't know what to say. They've got some guys suspended. They've got some of their best defenders have been out all season. They had a lot of trouble stopping a Deebo Samuel-less South Carolina. Tell me again. I understand CBS had to carry this game. There's no other option. Kentucky and Ole Miss and LSU is a much better game, and probably going to be
all of the other games are going to be closer. All of the other games are going to be closer. But
I agree, but none of them carry. None of them have Alabama. But I will say this: I saw another tweet out there. Alabama's ratings have been lower this year because everybody turns on the channel for a second, sees, oh shit, it's 17-0. Catch you later, and they go to some other game, and that makes sense. But let me ask you this, Jimmy, and this is something that is a lot of people have talked about. Are you bored with this? I am not. I adore this. This is so much more fun to me than the stressors of, God, I hope we don't come out in the jumbo package. Oh, shit, we came out in the jumbo package. I mean, to me, even when something happens like Texas A&M takes the lead 3-0, I know immediately there's a 98% chance we're going to score and a 96% chance we're going to score within 2 plays. We score within 1 play.
Right.
I'm not bored in the least.
I'm not bored. It does change the way you view the games.
True.
I used to be nervous, and the games were really intense, and now that's kind of been replaced by monotony is not the right word, but like you said, just an expectation that proves true Saturday after Saturday. I mean, I put it this way: I used to never leave games early. Now I do, and it's not because I don't care. It's not because it's just simply because, hey, look, I know how this is going to end, and I want to get ahead of some traffic here, and I want to watch some other games, and it does in some ways it makes it less exciting because I think we all know that that we're not going to really worry about the outcome of an Alabama game, I think, until we get to the Auburn game. And frankly, we shouldn't worry too much about that game, but I think we will because of all the shit that's happened at Jordan-Hare Stadium over the years, and that's the game that we end up, kicking the ball around 5 times, and then Auburn, throws one up in the seats, and it bounces off, the tuba into a bucket of Gatorade that flips over and into the hands of a receiver who's laying on his back in the end zone. That's just sort of how shit happens over there. So I think because of the voodoo, we'll get nervous about Auburn. But until that game, it's just a succession of scrimmages. And thank God Nick Saban doesn't listen to the show because he would kick my ass for that. But I'm just saying that's the fan experience. Thank goodness for it. And I appreciate every single second of it.
When I was a little boy, I used to love Dukes of Hazzard, just like every other little boy in the South. But I used to watch it over at my grandparents' house, and my grandfather hated it. Now, he loved Walker, Texas Rangers, so I don't know. It wasn't the quality of the acting.
It's the same show.
It's the same show. One karate kid and one drives a car.
It's the exact same show.
It's the same. One has a brother and one doesn't. One is brothers with Tom Wopat, and the other one isn't. But anyway, so I'd be watching it, and I'd be kind of on the edge of my seat with it, which is embarrassing to admit, but I would be. And you remember before the commercial break of every Dukes of Hazzard, they would show the General Lee jumping a ravine, and then Hank Williams Jr. or whoever the hell it was would come on and say, "Boy, the Duke boys got themselves in a pickle this time. Let's see if they get out of it." Yeah. And then you have 5 minutes of commercials that come back, and my grandfather would always say, "Well, Luke, you think they're gonna make it?" And in a very sarcastic tone, which is kind of like going to an Alabama game. Like if there's ever a chance even that there is we hardly ever come upon a ravine. But if we ever do have a ravine, it's like, you think we're going to win? Yeah, we're going to win.
I think we're going to win.
So that's why you can go ahead and leave, because my grandfather would leave the room because he's like, I know it's not like, what really would have surprised my grandfather? If they crash into the ravine, Tom Wopat and John Schneider die in a fiery hell of metal and gasoline, and I'm screaming and crying, and my grandfather like, "Oh my God, they didn't make it."
He would all of a sudden think it's the greatest show he's ever seen in the history of television.
This shit just got real, son.
This just replaced MASH as the best TV ever. That's probably what he would say. Okay, here's the most compelling moment of our whole podcast. We have a compelling moment. Ready for this?
Yes.
This is going to be tough. This is going to be a brain twister.
A brain twister. But first of all,
not a brain twister. Catherine Bach on Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Catherine Bach on Dukes of Hazzard versus Nicole Eggert. Charles in Charge. Who you got? You going Catherine Bach? You going Daisy or Nicole?
No, I'm going Nicole Eggert.
I go Nicole Eggert too. Man, I thought we might disagree. No, I go Nicole Eggert.
Even when she was hot, even in the show's heyday, Daisy Duke looked a little older than the girl she was portraying. Now, part of me now finds that sexy. I mean, I dig 35 to 50-year-old women now. I mean, like 20-year-olds great, but now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, I know Louis C.K. has a great bit about that. He's like, I don't want some young, ditzy, hot everything. He said, I want somebody that's got some battle scars, that's been where I've been, that understands life's going to kick you right between the legs sometimes, and you get back up and you keep taking it. Like, that's sexy to me now. Like, I kind of get it. Like, again, I'm not saying you have to be leathery, but I like somebody. I like somebody who's been there, like had some life in them,
Ooh, that girl is fine leather.
But when I
Never heard that.
when I was a kid, 15 to 28-year-old Luke, definitely Nicole Eggert.
With
now, like if they were the same person, if like you could Walt Disney freeze both of them and bring them both in front of me, I might go Daisy Duke.
See, and I bet we're just alike on this too. Gilligan's Island, back while I was that age watching Gilligan's Island, I was a Marianne over Ginger kid. And when I watched Facts of Life back then, I was a Joe over Blair kid. No for you?
I mean, look, I didn't like Joe or Blair. I thought something was up with Joe even back when I was way back then. I was like, I don't think she and I have some of the same goals, or maybe we do have some of the same goals. That's the problem.
I get what you're trying to say.
I'm trying to be PC here. But Blair looked like also somebody who would. She looked like she's always going to battle some things. If she's not drinking too much, she's going to battle her weight. If she's not battling her weight, she's going to spend too much money. If she's not spending too much, she's going to complain about me. I mean, Blair looked very high maintenance, and there was going to be a lot of work to do. Whereas Joe,
I can see
they should have worked together because Joe loved to do work. She loved to do fixer-uppers. Blair and Joe should have hooked up.
Because
back then it would have been weird.
And Joe was a maintenance worker. Yeah, I can picture her being one of those girls that says things like, you go to her and you present her the president and she's shaking her head and you're like, but I thought you wanted the shoes with the red soles. Stupid red sole shoes. It costs like $2,500. She's still shaking her head. No,
yes,
not good enough. So I can see that. No, but my point being that back then.
Was it going to freak you out if I said I really like Mrs. Garrett?
Yes, you will freak me out when you say it. Well, you do like them leathery.
And they don't come anymore leathery.
No, she's probably been passed away probably for 30 years now, is she?
Dead or alive? A T-Rex's scrotum isn't that leathery. Is this live? Oh, wow. I forget sometimes we're live and like there are only certain people that listen to this, and now
when it used to be a podcast, we could tell Lawrence to edit stuff. We can't do it anymore.
I can't do that anymore.
We can't go back and unsay shit anymore. We used to be able to unsay shit.
And there's also part of me that's like, oh my God, did I just offend some people that really like dinosaurs? Is there like an anthropologist I just really pissed off?
Or maybe Miss Garrett's son, who is one of the 4 people that listen to our show.
That would be, you were talking about world standard coincidence.
No, I was saying, my whole point being that even though back then I was Joe over Blair and Marianne over Ginger, the older Jimmy, the 47-year-old Jimmy, I totally did. Now I'm definitely Ginger over Marianne. I'm definitely Blair over Joe. Just, you change. You don't get better, but you change.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just things become. What the hell were we talking about? How's it always?
This is what happens when we're 35-point favorites. This is what happens.
But I kind of dig it. I kind of dig. Look, I like doing this. Look, there's nothing worse. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to college football podcasts. I listen to Sirius XM. But there's nothing worse than overanalyzing something that doesn't need to be overanalyzed. Alabama's going to kick Tennessee's ass. That is not arrogance. That is fact. If it doesn't happen, I will come on this podcast and say, holy cow, did I screw that up? I was all wrong. But there's nobody on this planet, Lulu, Junior, Phil Fulmer, none of them think Tennessee is going to win this weekend. None of them. And that's Butch Jones's wife, Butch Cassidy. Name somebody that could potentially be associated with Tennessee. They don't think they're going to win. And I know Nick Saban hates that. He's not watching this. I know I was rat poison before he called me rat poison. So it's
you invented rat poison.
I invented rat poison. My nickname in high school was Decon. It wasn't. But
that would have been cool. That was cooler than I'm sure you're why am I picturing this? So that quarterback, Guantanamo Bay, you called him earlier? Guantanamo.
Yeah, Jared Guantanamo Bay.
Sort of picturing him in like in like a flannel shirt and a hat pulled down real low and big sunglasses. He's pulling it down and he's going to the track this week, and he's like going up to the window of the track and he's like looking around, making sure nobody's seeing this, and he's like, give me 300 on Bama to cover that 35 number. You know what I mean? That's how they. I think that's how they feel. That's how they feel going. I mean, they know. I mean, everybody knows. But and how about how freaking good Saban is that when the whole stadium knows, the whole state of Tennessee knows what's coming, it's still going to happen. It's still going to happen. Now,
but there's
we have played 8 weeks in a row. We have played 8 weeks in a row. If we're playing somebody good, that would be my theme all week. Like, you guys know, we've played 8 weeks in a row without a break. There's a bye week. These kids love the bye week because they get to practice less. Not only that, they get to go home on the off weekend and go to their local high school games where they're treated like Mick Jagger. They love the off week, and we're just about to the off week. We played 8 weeks in a row. If we're playing somebody good, I'd be like, oh shit, we're tired, we're beat up. They want to get to this off week. Thank God. Not thank God, I'm sure he doesn't care, but thank goodness the Tennessee is terrible. They're just terrible. They can't do nothing. They can't score.
But wasn't this the same situation last year? And Tennessee was number 9 in the country. We played them in Knoxville and beat them 49-10. So no, I don't think it would matter. They've got a bad coach. I'll take that back. I don't think Butch Jones is a bad coach. I do think he's a kind of a weird coach. He's more of a MAC.
Yeah, exactly.
Smaller school. Non-Power 5 or Group of 5 or.
Yeah, send him back to the American Athletic Conference or Conference.
And he's going to do well.
He'll do really well.
But
I think the problem, he can't recruit at the NFL level, and that's what it takes, recruiting at an NFL. He can't recruit a team of NFL stars.
And he may be good at a Minnesota, like PJ Fleck. Like, you can row the boat at Minnesota. If you prance into Tennessee trying to row a boat, or to Auburn or to LSU, I mean, you're going to get killed every day on Twitter. When you talk about leadership reps, what the hell are you talking about? You've already championed of life us. Don't leadership rep us.
The SEC is just one notch below the NFL. And this is the way I consider the NFL. In the NFL, you have to have good coaching because the talent levels are so equal. I mean, the talent levels, you're never that much better than the other guy. If you want to come to the SEC and do well, you have to put players on the field as good or better than the other team.
That's right.
In the other leagues, that doesn't happen because there are no Alabamas at that level. But up here, when you're playing Florida, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, Auburn, you better put a bunch of good damn players on the field. And it don't matter how good a coach you are. Your players have to be as good as the other team's players, or you are screwed. That's not an issue in the MAC. It's not an issue in the American Athletic Conference. But in the SEC, it's not only an issue, it's the whole damn show.
It's the issue.
It's the only issue. Your talent needs to be as good as the other guy because there ain't no fancy coach in the world going to get around that.
All right, so you said Auburn, so it made me think. I thoroughly enjoyed LSU's comeback. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. It was funny to me. But I don't know what it all means. I'm trying to, is Auburn really that bad? Is Gus Malzahn really this bad of a coach? And I'll tell you something that has bothered me. A lot of my Auburn friends have said Gus took his foot off the gas. He didn't take his foot off the gas. His foot was pressed as firmly against that pedal as it could be. He just doesn't know how to adjust. He gets it up to 85, and then he doesn't know when to switch gears. He doesn't know how to change it up. LSU made an adjustment. Auburn did not. That's the key to that whole game. Auburn's a better team than LSU.
Auburn is definitely a better team than LSU, but I think, again, some of it gets back to that player thing. While Auburn is better, and I think if Auburn played LSU 10 times, Auburn's going to win 8 of those times. This was one of the 2 times LSU won, and I do blame that on Gus. But I think Auburn has more good players than LSU. Not by a lot, though. I mean, I don't really know what to think of that game. Believe it or not, I saw the first half, but didn't see the second half. So I missed all the funny stuff.
Why did you do that?
I mean, I didn't necessarily do it on purpose, but the long, stupid story is for the rare weekend we didn't tailgate. We didn't tailgate. We don't have a TV. We just walked around campus most of the game and visited people, went to a couple of stores, went to a couple of bars. We were eating lunch and drinking in a bar during the first half, and then at halftime we got out and walked around, and then later on I was sitting in the stadium when I found out LSU won the game. I was like, what? I mean, I was stunned because what I watched was the Auburn ass kicking. That's what I watched. I couldn't have been more stunned. I had to look up words in the dictionary like Bruce Willis and moonlighting. I was so stunned.
What is the equivalent of nefarious for stunned? Stunned
I was so stunned. I saw the score on the scoreboard in Bryant-Denny, and I was like, LSU won that game? That's nefarious. And I'm like, no, that's not what that means. And I'm like, I'm so stunned. I don't know what words mean anymore.
And I'll tell you something else that it made me laugh, but I'm going to tell you, it insulted me, and I felt bad for my Auburn friends when Gus Malzahn said, it's not the end of the world. You can't say that. You cannot say that to a group of people after you lose a 20-point lead when you were a 7-point favorite on the road, trying to win in the first a place you hadn't won in since 1999, and you're trying to put yourself in championship competition. You can't say that, right?
No.
Can you imagine Nick Saban saying that? Nick Saban thinks we don't take it seriously enough.
Me and you ranted all summer about how dysfunctional Auburn was because they hired an offensive guru that now they won't let him coach the offense. Either they won't let him coach the offense or he removed himself from the offense, which is the dumbest. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And I listened to an Auburn fan this morning on the radio, and a smart Auburn fan at that, and he was mad that Gus was still anywhere near the offense, still blaming it on Gus. And I'm like, why the hell did you hire that guy if it wasn't to coach your offense and be a Gus offense? Why the hell if that's not what you hired him for, why did you hire? It's just dysfunctional as shit, and I think that's why they deserve that second half of that game, is because it's just flat out dysfunctional. That is one thing no one can ever accuse Nick Saban of. Nick's got his shit straight, has had it straight since the day he showed up, and has never changed in 11 years. It's because he is the king of high functioning, but Auburn has a dysfunctional situation on offense, even though they have good players. Kerryon Johnson's a good player. Even Petway's a good player. Stidham is a good player. Most of those offensive linemen are good players. Some of their utility guys, like Chandler Cox, is good. I sort of like the big tight end from Montgomery. He's got a big body. I bet he'd be playing at Alabama.
How do you know it? Well, hold up. How do you know if you like him? Does he have a game?
I mean, no. I'm talking about him as a blocker on the edge. I'm just looking at Auburn's rush numbers and their outside run game.
Person. I like him as a person.
Yeah, he seems like a swell guy. But I'm talking about they're out. They run the ball exceptionally well. When you're a college football team that runs the ball exceptionally well, you got a tight end blocking his ass off. You can't be. Yeah, and that's why I like him. That's why he'd be a good fit at Alabama.
Well, look, and obviously Marlon Davidson's very good. Jeff Hollins improved a lot. I think all their best players are on defense, though. I mean, while everybody's having a fit about Kerryon Johnson, I think Kerryon Johnson's good. I've followed his whole high school career. I still would maintain that Kerryon Johnson would be an All-American safety at Alabama, and as it is, he's probably second-team All-SEC running back at Auburn. I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion. That's not bad to be second-team All-SEC running back. It's a good thing. But I think Nick Chubb's better. I think Sony Michel's better. I think Damian Harris is better. I think Darius Geis is better. I think John Kelly's better. I think John Kelly's, boy, you talk about somebody undersold. John Kelly's got no help at all, and he hardly gets the ball.
Talk about somebody who gets no help but is a really good back. He blows me away every time I watch him. I love that kid at Kentucky, Snell.
Oh yeah,
you put him at a Penn State. Brandon Snell. Yeah. Brandon Snell. You put him at an Alabama or Penn State or Oklahoma. Oh hell! I mean, he has no offensive line to run behind up there, but he's still good. But now, I agree about Kerryon Johnson. A lot of football fans that would listen to this, many of whom are smarter than I am, are going to just disagree with this statement, or people just use this as proof of my idiocy. But what I say about Kerryon Johnson is this: I know he's a productive SEC back. I know he's a good back. He probably deserves a second-team All-SEC nod, and he might even get drafted and play in the NFL at running back. But he's a defensive back. He should have been a defensive back. He'd be better at defensive back. He'd have a longer NFL career. He'd be a better safety than he is a running back. I think he's playing the wrong position. And other people look at me and say, how can you say that? He's All-SEC. Well, don't you think Julio Jones would have been an All-SEC safety? I'm not saying Julio's playing the wrong position.
Don't you think LeBron James would have been an All-SEC wide receiver? Mark Barron would have. Mark Barron would have been a hell of a running back. But guess what? He's still in the NFL playing because he played the right position.
Played the right position. That's exactly right. I think KJ is in the wrong position. I do. And I said this, I said the same thing about is Jalen Hurd at Tennessee. Jalen Hurd was an exceptionally good back, but to me, he was just a defender. He should have been a defender the whole time. And if you remember, he transfers from Tennessee, starts talking about going to all these other programs. What do they want to do? They want to move him to another position.
That's right.
And I'm like, that's what I was saying the whole time, that I know he ran for 1,400 yards in the SEC, which is a hell of an accomplishment. Still, he's playing his best position.
But you know what? You know who else we're going to say this about in the future, I'm afraid?
And
are you still there? You're cutting out.
Technology.
Are you holding for me? Did I cut out or you cut out?
You cut out to me.
Okay, now we go. You know who we're going to be saying about this in the future?
Got cut out to you.
Is Harold Joyner. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried Harold Joyner is going to play running back wherever he goes. And I just feel like that guy is a prototypical linebacker, maybe even eventually grow into like a D end. Maybe. I don't know. But I think he is he's so athletic and so strong and so big. And I get it. I mean, running back is it's the glamour position. But you know what? If you really want to be in the NFL and make more money, I think long term you have a better shot at doing it at linebacker, don't you?
Well, in almost any position other than running back. I think running back, even though it's a glamour position because you get the ball to score touchdowns, you have a shorter career and you make less money. They're expendable, and teams want to use 3 or 4 of them, and they go through them. I mean, Sean Alexander won NFL MVP at running back, and 2 years later was out of the league and could not find a job.
That's right.
2 years after being MVP of the league. That's a perfect example of why running back is you're going to have a short career, and people playing defensive back would still be playing and making more money. Longer career, more money, less wear and tear on the body. So. And great points about Harold Joyner. Couldn't agree more. I hate to be fatalistic in an Alabama fan because it's the greatest run in college football history. Why would we ever be fatalistic? But I feel this way about Harold Joyner. If we sign him and he plays running back, he won't have a big career at Alabama. If he goes somewhere else and plays running back, he's probably going to rush for 2,000 yards. I just get this sense of we can't win for lose him with that kid. Yeah. Nothing will go right. If we sign him, he's no good. If he goes somewhere else, he's going to be awesome. I mean, I know that.
I agree.
It's just a gut feeling. Sometimes we get this gut feeling about kids, and with him, I'm like, gosh, I want to sign him. I'm just not convinced he'll be fantastic. But if we don't sign him, I'm gonna be upset. I'll be like, damn it, we should have signed that Harold Joyner kid.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Okay, prediction time. Go ahead, Jimmy.
My prediction that I'm going to tweet all over the Twitterverse is 42-10 Alabama. If I'm wrong, it's way worse than that.
I'm going 52-0. Somehow
you got balls.
I want to go 59-0 because have you ever know? I know we scored 66 on Ole Miss earlier this year, but like we seem to get to 59 a lot, 59-0 or 52-0. We beat Arkansas 52-0 a couple of times, I think twice in a row. We beat Texas A&M. Was that 52-0 not too long ago? Like 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, we get there a lot. So I'm going to say 52-0.
The problem Tennessee's going to have, because their inability to stop the run, is when we're trying to run out the clock, when we take the air out of the football, as Nick Saban calls it. That's literally what Nick says. That's the only play call Nick makes the whole game, is he gets to a certain point of the game and then he calls upstairs. He says, all right, take the air out of the football, which means we're not throwing it anymore. He's probably going to say that midway through the third quarter, and all we're going to do is hand off the ball the rest of the game. We'll still score. He'll still score. Brian Robinson's going to run 60 yards for a touchdown.
Bo Scarborough did it last year.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I could see it getting real. I'm going to say 42-10 out of respect for superstition and not jinxing us, and the fact that Tennessee is theoretically an SEC powerhouse in the days of yore.
Army was.
What's the worst we've ever beat them? What's the worst we've ever beat them? Was it the 49-10 game?
You think last year was the worst we ever beat them? I don't know.
It might be.
I guess
we probably beat them the worst we'll ever beat them. We need to look that up because that's a good question.
Yeah, that
should be the prediction. My prediction is whatever the worst we've ever beat them, we'll do that. +1.
We are well, you know, that I'm still pissed that we only beat Auburn 49-0 back in 2012 when the record is 55-0, and all we had to do was score one more touchdown. We scored a touchdown on the opening drive of the second half and then didn't score again because we played everybody under the sun. And I guess it made sense because we were playing a good Georgia team the next week, but I wanted to beat them 56-0. I wanted to set the record. I wanted to be there to set the record. Damn it, Saban.
Nick never pleases. Nick never pleases us.
See, this is how Nick always keeps us interested. Is he's going to piss me off with those little bitty things like that. All right, so there we go. Listen, appreciate any and everybody who has watched on this. What do you call this? Google Hangout, and also listen to the podcast. I also want to thank Pringles.
Thanks for
our sponsors out there knowing it.
Yep, we're living the large life thanks to large cans of Pringles that we get for free.
I don't even know if Pringles would be like, we're going to sponsor y'all, but it's only those little mini packs that you send with a kid's lunch. Like, I don't even think they'd use that to sponsor us. That would be cool, though, if, like, one of my kids opened up their lunch, one of my 15 kids opened up their lunch, and there's, like, mine and your faces on the Pringles thing.
There's, like, Pringles now that taste like tacos.
Oh, they've got
flavored Pringles.
They've got every kind of, you know, Lay's is doing a lot of that shit where they do like falafel flavored. What? Why don't you just get a falafel?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you got to get the taco flavored
store? Who's in a convenience store and says, you know what I could go for? A falafel.
Just go buy a damn taco. That's my you know, if you're like, you know what I'm hungry for? Tacos. Oh, look, there's some Pringle flavored tacos. No, just go buy a damn taco.
6 and 1, half dozen another. That's the same thing. Same thing.
That's right.
All right, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.
All right,
guy. See you.
All right, buddy. See you.
Bye.